Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the O2 or oxygen sensor on a Pontiac Fiero GT. So let's go ahead and get started. These are the items that you'll need to complete this. You can either use a 22 millimeter wrench, as I have here, or if not, you can use a ratchet with the 22 millimeter oxygen sensor socket. It really depends on what you want to use, because you can get to this from either the top or the bottom of the vehicle. I recommend the bottom, as we'll show soon, because then you can get to the harness easier. Then the next thing that you're going to need is your oxygen sensor. And as shown here, I highly recommend using the GM genuine parts. The aftermarket ones like Bosch and things like that, I've used them on other vehicles and they've worked fine, but sometimes they don't seem to last right. But I know at least with this vehicle, I've heard from other people that they highly recommend this. And I always want to go with the genuine part if possible. In this case here, the genuine one was actually cheaper. So I got this at Advance Auto, and with the online discount and everything else, it came to around like $18. I'll put along the bottom the actual price. But the aftermarket ones through AutoZone or online, they were around $28. So in this case, the genuine part was cheaper as well, but I'd highly recommend going with the GM part if possible. That way you know that it's set properly for the vehicle. So this is all that we have. Let's head over to the vehicle and I'll show you where it's located. Coming in from the top, if you're looking here, here's your distributor, there's your air intake, your intake plenum is over here, and we're working our way through. There's your exhaust manifold. That back there is the O2 sensor, and let's get a close-up so we can see where the harness is as well. And here we are, and you can see there's the wire. Come down in here. So here's the sensor going into the exhaust pipe right there from the manifold, and if we follow the cable wrapping right back here, our harness is tucked right there. Now let's head underneath and I'll show you how it looks from the bottom. Okay, so coming from underneath, we're working our way back here. There's our exhaust pipe. It's a little bit of a tighter squeeze here. And you can see that right there is the O2 sensor. And if we move right along here, there we go. There's the harness. So if you're under here, it's easier to get your hand up to it, in my opinion. So you need to figure out what works best for you, getting it from the bottom or the top, but it's as simple as that. Now, once you determine what works better for you as far as accessing it from underneath or from the top, then you're ready to get started. What I'd highly recommend is if you have an O2 sensor that's maybe the original or that's been on there a while, it's not a bad idea to saturate it with some penetrating grease just to loosen up that bond. And another thing is to have a breaker bar handy. I didn't have that listed as one of the items required to complete this video because that may not be your situation, but it's not a bad idea to have one ready just in case you need to get on there and just kind of break that thing loose, have that ready to go. So we're going to head over and we're going to go ahead and remove it and swap it out. What I'm going to do, I'm going to loosen and remove the O2 sensor from the top, and then we'll go underneath to disconnect the harness since, as I just showed, I think there's more access. So we're going to go ahead and use this O2 sensor socket. Make sure you get that on properly. Now, sometimes these can be on very tight, so you wouldn't hurt to start with a breaker bar just to loosen things up. So that's what I'm going to do. You can try using the ratchet to start, but I've found sometimes, especially with the older vehicle, and to my knowledge, this is the original O2 sensor. All right. You can see it's starting to move. It's probably very rusted on there. And then now that we've loosened it, we can connect the ratchet to finish it off. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and do it by hand now. There we go. And ooh, look at that. Oh my goodness. I believe this is the original O2 sensor. So let's pull that out, get that out of here. We'll head underneath and disconnect it. Here's our harness right here. So I'm just going to grab it. There's a little tab. Just pop it back. Push that tab up, pull it. There we go. And there's your harness. You want to make sure you don't let that fall back because you're going to need to plug the new one in there and clip it in. Here's our original, here's our new one. Let's take the cap off so we can compare these. What a huge difference. And I'll get a close-up so you can see it. Take a look at that. Look at the new one. Nice and silver, clean. Look at this thing. Filthy. Now this particular vehicle, we were actually getting the old GM OBD1 code for the Pontiac Fiero. I'll put it along the bottom, which is indicative of the oxygen sensor. Now this particular vehicle just has one oxygen sensor, doesn't have an upstream and downstream like the newer cars have. So if you have to replace it, the good thing is that's it. It's just the one and that's it. And as mentioned already at the beginning, you can get them very inexpensive. And we're talking about the original, the GM part. But look at that. Now that we're ready to put the new O2 sensor on, this particular one already came with the anti-seize compound applied to the threads. Now, if you have one that does not have it, it's not a bad idea to apply a little bit on there. That'll not prevent it 100%, but it will lessen the chances of it getting seized on there and needing to use a breaker bar, all that stuff next time around when you're ready to replace it. So once we have all that on there, let's head over to the vehicle, put this in, and then we'll head underneath, connect this, start it up, see how it works, and wrap this up. We're going to go ahead and bring this in. I'm going to hand put it in first so that way we don't cross thread it. Get this in here, and then we'll drop the harness down to the bottom and get to it from there when we're ready. But we'll go ahead and do this by hand. Okay, and then once we have it tight, okay, I'm going to drop that down the harness. We'll make the connection, but I'm going to go ahead. Now this is a 22 millimeter, so we're going to go ahead and just use a wrench to tighten it, and then we'll put the socket on it to do the final tightening. Okay, so we're underneath the vehicle, and you can see the new sensors in, tightened up, great. Here's our harness. Let's see if I can raise it so you can see it. There's the end that we're going into. Here's our wire pull down here. So I'm going to go ahead and take it all the way up there, and you're just going to slide it in. Unfortunately, I need both hands to do that, but we're going to slide it all the way up into that tab. It's going to, I'll see if I can turn it. You have the little lip right there where it's going to clip onto. So I'm going to go ahead and connect it, and then we'll be back to take a look at it. Want to line it up so that this little piece clips on. And as you can see here, everything is connected. I'll try to get a close-up so you can see how the clip went on. And there you can see it. That little tab up top clips onto the harness on the sensor to hold it connected there. So now everything's good to go. Let's start up the vehicle. All right, Well, this wraps up this video on how to replace the oxygen sensor or O2 sensor on a Pontiac Fiero GT. As we saw here, this thing was in desperate need of it. The performance of the vehicle completely turned around. And obviously another issue is if you have an engine code, as we showed earlier, that will tell you exactly if that's your problem. So I hope this video was informative for you. I hope it helped you out with any projects you're working on. Please send me any questions or comments. I would love to hear from you. As always, I appreciate all the support. Please like the video, subscribe to this channel as I'm constantly posting new content, and I'll see you next time.